Every time I go back there, I always have to kind of reflect on what it was like the first time that I flew into Kosovo, in February of 2005. We were flying in, and I remember looking out the window, and it was just a blanket of snow. You didn't see roads, you didn't see, you could barely see houses. Now when you go in there, it feels, particularly Pristina, it just feels like a metropolitan area. It feels like an up-and-coming city, very dynamic, very active, a lot of things that are going on. So, you really do reflect on what has happened during that intervening period of time.
20 years passed by, and if I close my eyes, I could just return right back on time back then. I remember we were expelled from our home and we went to these safe zones that were controlled by Kosovo Liberation Army. Of course, there were mountainous places, there were no homes. So we created these shelters, nylon shelters, and in a 2 square meters nylon bag, I lived with my family of 9 for 5 weeks. And that was not even the worst part, because the worst part was the fact that we never knew if we are going to make it alive. So the civilians took this road down this stream to go to the city. And on 2nd of May 1999, just over there, 116 civilians were killed in a matter of 2 hours. All over this place, you could see. And then those who remained alive, they undertook to get them buried here and here. You can see they could not choose the place properly because it was wartime. And that night we had 116 people killed, civilians, by military forces of Serbia, just for a simple fact. They didn't speak the same language.
What I can tell about the time is that I actually grew up in a house where they tried not to let the war get into our ears, because we were still like very, very small, and they didn't want us to have trauma and everything like that. But I remember as young children that they wouldn't let us play on the streets. Even though we were like 3 or 4 years old, they would always like keep us inside, but never telling us why.
When the NATO bombing campaign started, it was March 24th, 1999, I'll never forget that day. Around maybe 8 o'clock, the first bombs. Just a sense of hope that, though it was dark, there is an end to that conflict. There is an end to that war.
Certainly people in the government, the Ministry of the Kosovo Security Forces, they certainly know about it. And in fact, if you go to the Ministry of the Kosovo Security Forces, again, their Pentagon equivalent, they've got a row of flags outside. They've got the flag of Kosovo, the flag of the KSF, the flag of Iowa. It's just, it's strange, but they greatly value the participation of Iowa in the development of their country.
Kosovo, obviously, they would tell you the U.S. is their most important strategic partner. And what the state partnership does is it kind of distills down the U.S. into kind of a manageable organization. Rather than going to New York or Washington, D.C., where they're just a small fish in a big ocean, they can come to Iowa and really have more of that personal connection and access to policymakers, access to business leaders, access to experts.
I am very proud every time that I see and happy this visit that comes from Iowa to Kosovo and from Kosovo to Iowa, because from every single visit something concrete comes out of that opens the door to the partnership and the work between both of our states.
Look, Kosovo over the last 20 years has had a lot of helpers, a lot of people coming to help, a lot of different initiatives. And I'm not saying none of them have worked, but Normally they're in isolation. With Iowa, they have managed to build something that is literally a massive community. So if you are involved with one piece of it, you're not alone, and there's a whole kind of ecosystem around it. And I think that's really, if not unique, it's one of the best international relationships that I've seen.
The question really you'd have to ask yourself is charitable donation, is helping a neighbor in need worth it? You shouldn't be doing it for your own personal gain. Just because it makes you feel good isn't the reason you do it. You do it because it's right.
The outcomes sometimes are not tangible. I say oftentimes we don't really play well in pamphlets or on charts because what we do is we oftentimes increase awareness, but that awareness oftentimes leads to something else.
You can see that there is no difference between Pristina or people in Vushtre and people in Norwalk. The only difference is the fact that here is more crowded, it is less regulated because of our past history. We don't have the same, let's say, urban planning, but people are just like the same. And they have the same ambitions. They want to succeed in their life, for themselves and their families.
We have like 54% of our population being young from age 14 to 24, and it's quite interesting just seeing the hope and the enthusiasm that those youth have. Because, for example, if you go to a developed country, if a youth doesn't have a job or some kind of that, they are kind of depressed. But here in Kosovo, we don't really have the means, but everyone is trying and everyone has hope that one day is going to be a better day for them.